My name is Frank, and I'm a bulldog. That means my ears hang like little flags, my face looks like crumpled paper, and I snore so loudly that anyone nearby might think, am I really going to sleep next to that? But you know what? I know my worth. We bulldogs have a unique look. It's an acquired taste, as they say. But those who truly love us understand. Under this airbag face hides a heart of gold. I always dreamed of having a home of my own. I imagined it somewhere in the depths of my bulldog consciousness while I sat in the shelter. Oh yes, the shelter. A place that smells a bit sad. But it was my home. Until that day. So there I was, dozing off, sprawled across my cage, when suddenly, footsteps echoed down the corridor. I perked up. The sound was like someone had finally decided to come for that special dog. Of course, I didn't expect it to be me. I mean, come on. I'm a bulldog, not some pretty pooch with a long, silky coat that begs for endless petting, or a tiny terrier with pointy ears. I look like the kind of dog where you'd wonder if I even have eyes. And then he appeared. My owner. Or rather, the one who was about to become my owner if I played my cards right. He walked over to my cage and I threw him my most serious, pensive look. Kind of like saying, oh, you like faces like mine too? And you know what? He didn't walk away, didn't turn around, didn't sigh in relief. He just looked at me, and in his eyes I saw that little spark, as if he could already picture the future, where I'd be lounging on his couch, chewing toys, like it's always been that way. Then this guy squatted down and said, hey buddy, how about coming home with me? Like it was that simple, like we did this every day. He seemed surprised at his own boldness, but I already understood him. Time to head out. They put me in the car. If you've never ridden in the back seat, you wouldn't understand what real life feels like. I immediately climbed onto the seat and decided to behave like a dignified passenger. Well, at least for the first 5 minutes. The car started moving and I realized that this moment was my chance to savor freedom. I stuck my head out the window and the wind puffed up my cheeks like two little sacks. My eyes started tearing up from the speed and I probably looked like an old man on a roller coaster, but it was so wonderful I didn't care. This wasn't just a ride. It was my journey to a new life. Cars passing by, people in them eating their burgers, and I look at them like saying, hey, you there, with the sandwiches? Yeah, you're lucky I'm not in your car. Otherwise, there'd be nothing left. And next to me, my owner, serious, focused, probably thinking, well, I got myself this guy and he snores. I wonder how the neighbors will feel about this. But I think he already knew he'd never let me go. And where would I go anyway? Certainly not back to the shelter. When we arrived, I was a bit bewildered. You know, a new place, new smells. It's like walking into a store and not knowing where to start. My owner opened the door, took a deep breath and said, well, Frank, welcome home. I looked around. Okay, not a palace, but it looked cozy. I instantly felt, this is where I'll be happy. At first I entered cautiously, as any respectable dog would, especially when seeing their new home for the first time. My owner shut the door behind us and went forward, pointing out each corner as if on a tour. I mapped out my plan. First, check if there are any cats around. You know they like to leave smells everywhere. Then sniff all the corners, and of course find my bowl. And that's when I saw it, the couch. Oh, it wasn't just a couch, it was a throne, a royal hall, made for a bulldog to stretch out. I slowly approached and sat next to it to show that I'm a respectable dog who appreciates good furniture. But my owner looked at me with a smile as if winking like, why are you sitting? Go on, Frank, this couch is yours. I carefully climbed up and sprawled out in the way only a bulldog can, sighing with happiness, feeling my muscles relax, and my mind instantly shifting into full relax mode. He sat next to me, patted my side, and said, well, Frank, this is your home now. I looked at him with a touch of suspicion, like, are you sure you're not going to ask me to pay rent later? But his gaze was sincere, and I immediately understood. This guy wasn't kidding. This was truly my home. In the evening, after a few hours on the couch, I finally decided to take a walk and explore the territory. In the kitchen, there was my bowl, and it looked like it was filled with something edible. I figured it wasn't the perfect filet mignon, but, after the shelter, even simple food felt like a culinary masterpiece. First, I approached the bowl seriously, sniffed it to show that I'm actually a gourmet, and only then began eating. Yes, maybe I was slurping and even snorting a little, but that was all out of happiness. My owner watched me with such tenderness that I thought, now that's care, now that's what I understand. After dinner, I stood for a while thinking about where I should settle for the night. I remembered the couch, but then my owner decided to show me my own bed. Oh yes, the bed. It's nice if you're a regular puppy, but I'm, by the way, a real bulldog. I need cushions, soft surfaces, a whole doggy kingdom. But for the sake of politeness, I lay down on the bed to show that I'm grateful and that I appreciate their effort for me. However, it didn't take more than 5 minutes for me to realize, nope, the bed is not for me. I went up to my owner and stared at him with a look that clearly said, hey buddy, I was promised a cozy home, so better make room on the couch. He understood me without words, smiled, and patted the couch again. Well, now it was definitely our spot. As evening came, my owner sat on the couch and I settled down next to him, as any self-respecting dog should. The TV turned on, and the room filled with such a cozy silence that I even felt my eyes starting to close. It was a magical feeling, knowing you're not alone, that there's someone who cares for you, who lets you be yourself, asking for nothing in return. Well, except for some silence when I snore. In the evening, we watched a movie together, and it became our first little tradition. It seemed my owner had a habit of having a small movie night every evening, and of course I played along, sprawled out on his legs, as a tired, happy bulldog would. The next day, barely at dawn, I woke up from a loud rumbling, and only then realized it wasn't my stomach, but the sound of my own snoring. It turned out that I don't just snore. I do it so expertly that it sounds like there's machinery running nearby, from chainsaws to small lawn mowers. It was quiet around, but apparently my owner had managed to appreciate my nighttime concert because he was sitting on the couch with a look as if he'd spent the whole night trying not to wake up from my musical performance. I looked at him with an innocent expression as if saying, sorry buddy, it's part of my charm. And he smiled. He didn't just understand. He accepted me with all my snoring and snorting like it was a separate chapter of our agreement. My owner had breakfast and I realized it was time to show off. It's no secret that dogs are masters of persuasion, especially when food is involved. I went up to the table, gave him my hungry look number 1, with eyes that doubled in size and a stare so intense that it could melt anyone's heart. But apparently my owner was prepared. He raised his hand as if to say, no, Frank, this is my breakfast. But when has a real bulldog ever been stopped by that? I stood there staring at him like a detective who found his suspect, and at some point he gave in. He broke off a small piece of toast and handed it to me. Oh, it was a victory. Small but so important. That piece of toast felt like a symbol. Now we weren't just a man and a dog, we were a team. One that could always count on each other, especially when it comes to food. After breakfast, our first full day together began. My owner got ready for work and I stayed home, gradually claiming more and more space. Of course, I immediately went around all the corners, checking if a piece of food or a lost toast might appear as a souvenir. And then I found a toy. It was in the shape of a stuffed chicken. Perhaps not the most sophisticated design, but who am I to judge? The main thing was that it could be chewed. I grabbed it and began testing it for durability. An hour or two passed, and then came the realization. I had thought that this house was complete freedom, that I could spend the whole day lying on the couch and doing whatever I want. But no, it turned out that without my owner, even the softest couch doesn't bring such happiness. I felt a little down. I thought, how could this be? Yesterday I was with him, and today I'm alone again. I even growled a little at my chicken. And then it hit me. I might actually miss him. When my owner returned in the evening, he was probably a bit shocked by my enthusiasm. I ran up to him so fast that he barely had time to set his bag down before I wrapped my short legs around him and nearly knocked him over. He clearly wasn't expecting such a reunion of the century, but quickly understood that this was my new way of expressing love. Well, what can I do if I enjoy the idea of greeting him, not just being a resident? After that, each day turned into a celebration. We developed our own rituals. In the morning, me trying to convince him to give me a piece of his toast, then a walk in the yard where I left my marks like signing autographs, and of course our evening routine with movies. Oh, speaking of movies, sometimes when other animals appeared on screen, I of course tried to show my interest. I'd get up, walk closer, and start barking at the screen. My owner would laugh, pat me on the shoulder, and say, "Frank, it's just a movie." And I'd just grin like, maybe you understand it's not real, but I like the feeling of being the home's main protector. Weeks flew by, and I began to feel that this place was truly mine. My owner not only tolerated my snoring and regular attempts to steal his dinner, but he also started taking care of me in ways no one had before. One day he even bought me a special bed for sleeping. But of course we all understood that it was just decoration, because my choice was always the couch and nothing else. Now when we sit together on that very couch in the evenings, I look at my owner and feel that I've found my place in life. Here by his side I'm truly needed and loved, and no matter what my habits are, they don't annoy him in the slightest. We've become a team, real friends who always understand each other without words. I am Frank, a bulldog with a complicated fate and an even more complicated snore who has found his home.